So I heard this rumor about 2 months ago. Actually, Brandon Draven, who many of you know from the K-Fabulous Lucha Brothers Wrestling show, who was on this channel before, he was the first one to tell me about this about 2 months ago, that there is talk inside the Star Wars industry, inside of Disney, whatever, that they're going to, or they're considering making Star Wars Episode 9 a two-parter, sort of like what they did with Harry Potter, with the Hunger Games. Of course, Avengers was supposed to be Infinity War Part 1 and Part 2, but they retitled Part 2. It's been done before. Also Twilight did it too with their Breaking Dawn Part 1 and Part 2. And the discussion, a couple months ago he asked me about it, and I was just like, nah, I hadn't heard that, because I really had genuinely not heard that. Now this article has come out now. Brand new article here on WeGotThisCovered.com, which I'm not really sure of the credibility with this, but now that I've heard it from two different people, there might be something to it. And that is the talk that J.J. Abrams, Kathleen Kennedy, and Disney might make Star Wars Episode 9 into two movies. So we might get Episode 9 Part 1 December of 2019, which is when Episode 9 is supposed to come out. And then Part 2 might be 2020. Now, let's talk about what this could mean and what could happen, okay? The whole thing going on here, the article goes on to talk about, we have this big actor and this major development and all that stuff like that. A lot of this stuff in this article is kind of just a bunch of nonsense. Like, not that they're wrong, but it's just sort of stuff that we already knew. Like, they're saying, hey, we've got, new characters, and we knew that already, that they can fit new characters in the Star Wars movies without making them two parts. That's not the point. The point is that the reason why making Episode 9 in a two-part movie might actually work is because of the fact that with Episode 8, even though Star Wars Episode 8 did end on... It did not end on a cliffhanger, okay? But it did end on a sort of note where it felt like there was finality to it, but it also felt like there was a lot of things that were unresolved. So obviously at the end of Episode 8, at the end of Last Jedi, the First Order is still reigning. Kylo Ren is the leader. Hux is there. Phasma is presumed dead, although it's not confirmed. Snoke is dead. Over on the good guy side, Luke Skywalker is gone. Of course, Han Solo died in Episode 7. So we're left with Rey, Poe, Finn, Rose, obviously the droids, Chewie, and Princess Leia, General Leia, who is confirmed to come back for Episode 9. So the thing about Episode 8 is most of us thought that it was going to end in a cliffhanger to lead into Episode 9, but it does sort of make you wonder if maybe they're doing this because Episode 9 will have an actual, more solid, solidified cliffhanger. Because Episode 8 did feel like the end of a story. Plus, if you think about it, Episode 7 and 8 are basically one big story. Episode 8 starts right after Episode 7. They could be doing something where, you have the pairs of movies. And now with Episode 9, it could be two parts. Now, why they don't just call it Episode 10, I wouldn't know, but it could also be like maybe Episode 9 picks up right after, like Part 2 of it, if it does come out, picks up right after Episode 8. It's possible, but it's still one of those things where, and by the way, their source is MovieWeb, and MovieWeb is credible, so there's something to this, but it could be one of those things where, they do it like that, but they've already done that with Force Awakens. Episode 8 is right after Force Awakens. So it's kind of a weird decision, but it's one of those things where maybe when J.J. Abrams was writing the script, and coming up with the story, he realized that, Rian Johnson didn't leave him with anything. There wasn't too much of a cliffhanger to build upon, so he wants to create sort of his own cliffhanger. So maybe with what Episode 9 is going to be, is maybe it's going to be sort of a modified version of J.J. Abrams' original vision for Episode 8, which is, Episode 9 could be the middle, quote, story, the middle chapter that J.J. had originally envisioned, and then Episode 9 Part 2 could be, his Part 3, But it'll be interesting because if they do this, it is unprecedented for Star Wars. Will Episode 9 Part 2 have a crawl? Will Part 1 say Episode 9 Part 1? Like, how are they going to do that? It's just something that's never really been done before in the history of Star Wars, and quite frankly, if you ask me my opinion on this, like, should it be two parts? If Abrams' story requires it, and he has a good idea to wrap up this trilogy, and it'll take more time than he had originally thought, I'm all for it. I'm all for episode 9 being 2 parts. But what they have to really do is they're going to have to create such a great environment and such a compelling cliffhanger in episode 9, part 1, that everybody comes back for part 2. Because part 9 of episode 1 is the most important, whether it be part 1, I said part 9 of episode 1, I meant to say, I'm screwing up. I meant to say part 1 of episode 9. If this movie is cut into 2 parts, the first part is the most important Star Wars movie to come out since Force Awakens, because this is the film that's going to either bring all the fans back or piss off the fans even more, the ones that didn't like Last Jedi. So episode 9 has to have a cliffhanger that is so impactful and so important and so interesting that they come back for part 2. You know what I mean? Those are my thoughts on this. Let me know your thoughts. Are you okay with episode 9 being 2 parts? Do you just want them to cram everything into one movie? Is there enough of a story to really lead this? And again, I was not going to even cover this when Draven had told me about it, 2 months ago. I didn't see anything about it. I thought he had just heard. But no, it's actually now being put out in 2 or 3 different news outlets. So the question is, will it happen? And I want to hear from you guys. Do you think it's a good idea? Honestly, other franchises have done this before. We talked about it already. Harry Potter did it, and it was very successful for them financially. Avengers, of course, huge. That's the way things are now. I don't see why Star Wars wouldn't do the same thing. Again, very different, but if the story requires it, I don't just see why they just call it episode 10 at this point. But maybe they just want to end it at 9 so they could say 3 trilogies, even though, to be honest with you, if you're going to cut the movie in 2 parts, it's not really a trilogy anymore. It's a quadrilogy. See what I'm saying? Kind of breaks things. It does break what Star Wars has been. Let me know what you think, and I'll talk to y'all very soon.